What up, y'all? This is Alan, aka Blue, and I build furniture. I'm a woodworker. Started woodworking about 5 years ago, and I just fell in love with it, and pretty much just been a student of the craft ever since. Um, if you know me personally, and you're surprised that this is where I'm at and this is what I do now, uh, I'm just as surprised as you are, because we all know I spent most of my younger years breaking and tearing shit up. But now I'm on the other side of the spectrum and I build stuff. I build stuff like this. I turned this crazy looking slab into this dope ass table right here. And if you want to see some of the process, then stay with me. Now, I'm not going to explain every single little detail of building this table, but I will try to hit on some of the key points. Here, I'm just trying to clean up the slab, get some of the soft spots out. I'm doing this because you really want to get a good bond between the epoxy and the wood. I wanted to remove any pieces that could potentially break off the slab. Next, I took this handheld power planer and I started to clean up the face of the slab. And I did this because I wanted to get a good look at the grain to help me decide which pieces I wanted to keep for the design of my table. Next, I took my track saw and I cut the pieces that I wanted to keep out of the slab. And as you can see, my track saw couldn't even get all the way through this slab. This slab started out at a slightly over 3 inches thick. Here I am prepping a couple of pieces of melamine so that I can use my router sled to flatten my pieces. This paste wax is going to help everything glide smoothly. When I put my pieces on the flattening table, I shimmed it up so that it would not move when I'm running my router across the top to flatten it. Then after I got one side flattened, I flipped it over on the flat face and flattened the other side. And one of the main reasons for doing this is that I didn't want to waste too much epoxy from it running underneath the slab. The epoxy is about $100 a gallon, so I definitely wasn't trying to waste any. And that is a pretty ass piece of maple burl right there. After I got all my pieces flattened, I had to start prepping this piece of melamine for my base, and I had to add 2 pieces to it to make it long enough because it wasn't big enough for the diameter table that I was shooting for. I'm definitely going overkill with these screws here, but I really did not want an epoxy leak. So you pretty much got to make everything watertight when dealing with these deep pour epoxies. Here I'm trying to get my final layout together, and I'm also going to take some chalk and I'm going to mark some lines, and that's to give me a better idea of what it's going to look like when I pour this epoxy. Another thing I'm trying to accomplish is I'm going to taper these edges with a cut saw disc on my angle grinder. And really what I'm trying to do is make the gaps bigger on the top side of the table than they are on the bottom side, so I don't have to pour as much epoxy in this mold. I mentioned before that I tend to overkill things. So I also covered my base in Tyvek tape and tuck tape, and then I sprayed it with mold release before I set my pieces in there. And everything came out pretty damn clean. I didn't have any issues. I also caulked around the edge of this piece of melamine, and then I also put this landscaping border on there and put about 1,000,000 screws in it. After that, I ran a bead of caulk around the top edge, and then I let that set up for a day before I set my pieces in the mold and started pouring epoxy. And then it was time to pour. Now, I made this table a while ago, and I think I accidentally deleted most of my footage, so I had to recycle an old Instagram video. But anyways, the best advice I can give you on epoxy is to do your research. And if you don't do anything else, at least
follow the directions that come with whatever type of epoxy you buy. Good place to start with researching is you can go over to Blacktail Studios on YouTube and watch his videos. I watched his videos for probably about 2 years. And the guy on there, Cam, he knows what the hell he's talking about when it comes to these epoxy tables. And he definitely has some great information. So you go follow him, study his stuff. And like I said, do your research extensively because epoxy is not cheap and you don't want to waste this stuff. Now, I had to end up doing 2 epoxy pours because my first one wasn't deep enough. My landscaping edging wasn't tall enough, so I had to remove it. I scuffed up all of the epoxy so I can get a good mechanical bond, and then I caulked around this top, and then I secured my border with 3/4 inch screws, and that wasn't going to be an issue because I had to trim about an inch off of this top to get it to my final dimension. On my first pour, I had 0 leaks, but on my second pour, I had a few tiny leaks, and I was able to stop those pretty easily with a little bit of flex paste. And now, finally, we're about to get into the good part. So I took this table after this epoxy fully cured, and it probably sat for about 2 weeks because I went on vacation. But anyhow, I took it back to the place where I bought the slab at and had it flattened on both sides because I was not about to attempt to do that on my own and make that big ass mess. That's the raggedy ass bottle. And the bottom don't look too bad neither. Oh shit. I might use this side. Nah, I use that side. Finally got some time to get back on my table again. Sanded it down to 180 grit. Plan on going a little higher than that, maybe up to 320, maybe up to 600. But that motherfucker looking right. That's all I know. That's all I know. Look at that motherfucker right there. About to trim it down to size. After getting the table down to my final dimension, I put a nice chamfer on the edge because that's the look that I was going for. The table ended up being 54 inches in diameter. A lot of the time, some of the most important work on a table actually happens on the underside of the tabletop. On the underside of this tabletop, I recessed a space for 2 C-channels. The C-channel is going to assist the table in staying flat throughout the years, and the holes where you secure the C-channels are also slotted, and that allows the table to expand and contract seasonally without it cracking. Now, I actually put a hole straight through this tabletop, and it happened because my router bit spun out of the collet, and of course I edited that part out for the sake of this video. But if you want to see that video, I believe I have it posted on my Instagram. Maybe I'll try to post it here on my YouTube later. I also recessed the table base. That's not really necessary. I just think it looks good. I secured the table base with 7/16 bolts. So here I'm adding the threaded inserts. And then for the C-channels, those were secured with 1/4-20 bolts. An important note is that whenever you are securing this stuff down with your bolts, you don't want to tighten these bolts down too tight. You really just want to get them snug, because if you get them too tight, you're just defeating the purpose and you're restricting the tabletop's movement. To finish this tabletop, I sanded it up to 320 grit, and then I hit it with this Odie's super penetrating oil, and it's held up pretty damn good. The tabletop gets used more than I would like for it to get used, and I haven't had any issues with the finish, so far so good. Another thing that I did, which was really an unnecessary step, is I added the same finish, the Odie Super Penetrating Oil, to the table base. I got this table base from Floyd Line Designs. They make really nice table bases, but I think this matte finish seems like it collects dust a little bit too easy. So I added this finish to the base, and I think it gives it a nice subtle sheen, but it also helps protect it more and makes it easier to wipe down. So there was a little extra effort involved in this, but I'm glad I did it. And that's a wrap. That's the table. This is how it came out. These are the end results. I was extremely happy with the way it came out. It was a lot of hard work. I learned a lot. I got my wife a dope ass dining room table, and who knows, maybe one of my tables could be sitting in your dining room one day. Man, I never would have thought in a million years this is what I'd be doing after retiring from the Air Force. But this is where I'm at, and I'm loving every minute of it. So I appreciate y'all for watching my video. Please like and subscribe. And until next time, I'm out. I holla at y'all. It's built by Blue.